Hello, friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of the IT Business Podcast. And I know I say it all the time, but this one, yes, this is a very special episode. This is going to be the first episode during the month of May that is completely focused on money, marketing, and growth. You know, I do this every year. I usually do it in March, but March got a little busy. We pushed it back to May because that was the next month that started with M, because that's how I wanted to do it. And today's the first episode of that. Now, you've already heard me lay out some of the guests that we were going to have, and you were going to hear some new people. And today is exactly that. Today, I have with me Laura Johns. She is the founder of the Business Growers and host of the Get More MSP Leads podcast. She and her team build full marketing systems specifically for MSPs and IT companies that are serious about growth and not just dabbling with the next shiny object. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. When you said May was going to be your money talk, I'm like, what month is bad to talk about making money, right? So I think May is just as good a time as any, Mark.
That is true. It is. But I like to do just like a deep dive focus specifically.
Yeah.
And, I think what happens is throughout the year, you might come across a show that hits it where it is, but I like getting, 8, 10, 12 shows in a month's period where everybody's like, okay, if I want to know about this,
Right.
this is the time to listen.
Right.
And being able to get a whole bunch of experts on just as bonus there.
That's right. Well, I'm really excited to talk to you today. We've had great banter so far, so I know it's going to be a good show.
Yes. Well, let's begin by telling the listeners. So I reached out to you because I said this year, I'm specifically going to go find people that I hadn't found before. I came across your website. Actually, I came across 2 of your websites.
Okay.
And then I found this podcast and I'm like, okay, somebody I need to talk to. So let's talk about the fact that you've been doing this for quite a while. I hadn't heard of you, but I know others have. So tell us about your time here in the channel.
Yeah, so I've really been on the inside for a long time. That's probably why our paths have not crossed. But over the last 5 years, I actually left telecom, left an MSP. I was actually the first company I ever worked for. We were putting cellular inside electric meters. So that was a really fun time. That was where my career began. And so I was in the kind of wireless world and then transitioned into working for a managed services provider and led marketing there for about another 8 years before I started the Business Growers. And really, the Business Growers, as a lot of us experience as we become business owners, the Business Growers was really, born out of a need that I wasn't really finding as a marketer trying to grow a managed services provider business that traditionally started as a voice company and then added connectivity, and then they added the, managed services suite of products and now into, cybersecurity products. What I realized really quickly was it was taking me a long time when I would partner with a marketing partner to educate them on our world and how we worked and our sales cycles and how, what a good opportunity looked like for us and what our messaging needed to look like. And so once I realized that finding a marketing partner that really understood the business was, proving to be quite difficult, I decided to start it for myself. So I started the Business Growers 5 years ago, and now we have over 60 clients in telecommunications in the channel, different types of clients, but a lot of MSPs. And so, yes, I started the Get More MSP Leads podcast, formerly called the No Grow Scale podcast, but as an effort to really teach a lot of the stuff that we're doing inside my business for other managed services providers and companies in the channel. So it's almost like I had a pain that I couldn't find anybody to help alleviate. So I just started the business myself, and we have over 20 team members, and we are, really enjoying, honestly, innovating and staying a step or two ahead of a lot of what, folks are doing and trying to make sure that we're, on the innovation side of marketing and lead generation for these MSP companies we serve.
Okay. So I've got to ask the question. We get a lot of people that show up in our channel, say they're different.
Yeah.
So I need to ask you, what is it that makes you different And everybody knows
Yes.
that.
Yes, I'm glad you asked. And yeah, especially the marketing folks, right? They always have say they're different and then you realize maybe they're not. No, I actually had that issue too. So, a couple of things. One is that if you come to me and you say, "Hey Laura, I want a website." I'm not going to build you a website just because you want one. So it's kind of like if you go to your doctor and you say, "Hey, doctor, here's what's wrong with me. Prescribe me this." A good, thorough doctor is going to want to diagnose you and look at the whole self to make sure that you're healthy. And so, a big part of what we do is diagnostic. We actually will assess the folks that come to us, really, from a health standpoint, instead of a lot of people will come to me thinking they're healthier than they are. And so I'll look at not just your competition from who you think your competition is, but a digital health. Who does the internet say is your competition? And really start assessing you from the ground up as a business. And we will put things in place in the right order, which we'll talk about probably a good bit today if I have any guesses. But we would not just hand you something and then wipe our hands clean. We are very, very serious about being accountable to your pipeline. And that takes a progression of the right things at the right time. And so that's probably, I would say, one of the things that's a little bit different than a traditional marketing agency is you wouldn't just come to me and get a website and then be done. We would be building a system or engine for you. And then also, my commitment to our space. I just hired the COO of AltaWorks, which some of you may be familiar with. They're in the Fairhope, Alabama area. Lydia Walker's her name. I'm not sure if those of you who might be familiar with the EOS Entrepreneurial Operating System. EOS is a really big part of our company culture. And the two designated pieces of EOS are the leadership team members, the visionary and the integrator. I'm by all, levels of categorization. I'm the visionary. I'm seeing 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. And Lydia has come in to be my integrator and to really level us up in terms of a quality of service and things like that. But she's also been in the space for 20 years. She's been in the channel for 20 years. So that is another, I would say, key differentiator is that our leadership team has been in the space for quite some time. Lydia and I both, as leaders, have been in the space over 40 years combined. So we're committed to making sure that we stay here for quite some time.
Okay. So let me break down a couple of simple, quick questions first.
Okay.
You talked about, giving them a health score,
Hmm.
because a lot of us, we think we're better than we are.
Yep.
But you talked about not just giving people stuff and wiping your hands clean,
Yeah.
because the reason I ask that is there are a lot of us that are just simply looking for, hey, can you put together a
Right.
program for me that is automated, that I don't have to do anything?
Yep.
The leads come in and we're good to go, because a lot of times people complain when the leads aren't there
Hmm.
or anything like that. So how much further do you go?
Right. So we call our framework No Grow Scale, and very intentional about that. That was a big part of when I started the business. I may have told you this story, Marv. I'm not 100% sure, but um, when I started the business, my mom was at my house around the same time I was starting the business, and she saw a plant that was potted in my kitchen. And I was about 3 or 4 weeks postpartum with my first son, and she notices that the leaves on this plant are turning brown, and she flips it over in my sink in my kitchen and shows me the roots. She takes the pot off. She says, "Laura, this plant is root bound," and which meant that it was killing itself underneath the surface. And that really set kind of me on fire for the vision of what people in this space need, especially need B2B tech type sales. And so everyone, you said it, everyone really just wants to put a quick fix on something. We are in a culture where if we can take the pill that can get us skinny, and if we can take the shot that can get us skinny faster, that's what we want to do. The doing it the right way and doing it, the long game is just not something that's very attractive to us here in America. And so no person wants to meet a marketing partner who says, now, hey, of the no growth scale categories, and we have a system in which we believe you have to know who you are and who your customer is first, and all of your digital assets should reflect that. Then when you get ready to grow, you're able to produce consistent authority content, customer case studies, some things that really show that you understand your customer and that you have proof behind it. And then scale, you really get into, the more lead gen, demand gen, those things that everybody really, I would say that's the, for lack of a better word, the sexy stuff that everybody wants when they call you the first time. They just want that part where you're root bound, and so a lot of what we do is we sit there and we're really honest. If you don't like to hear it, that's okay. You can, go about your way, but we really believe in partnerships that are long lasting. And so in order to do that, I'm really not going to go slap a scale service on you if you're in the no. If your diagnostic shows that you're in the no phase and need a lot more work than that. So I'd say that, if that answers your question, that's kind of how long does it take? Well, it just depends on how committed you are. I don't know if that was your question. How long does it take? But it's it's a process, and we've got very specific measures to make sure that you're growing and that you're hitting those benchmarks.
Well, no, it really wasn't a matter of how long it takes. It's a
Okay.
matter of a lot of times programs are set up, your social media is on automate, and
Right.
then, you know, it's a template. You
Right.
have a newsletter template,
Right.
and some people may do calls for you, but not help you
Right.
close the deal,
Right.
that sort of thing. Some people will give you the list. It's your responsibility to call. It's your responsibility to
Right.
follow up. And then,
Right.
of course, the MSP is like, you know what? I don't have time for that. And I
Right.
don't want to hire somebody for that. I want
Right.
somebody to do that for me. So the question was, you know, how much more do you do? Like, will
Yeah.
you help a company, make calls, close deals,
Mhm.
put together something that's targeted specifically for them as opposed to a templated social
Right,
media
kind of a rinse
strategy?
and repeat, absolutely, and that's actually where I think that a lot of marketers in the space have given ourselves kind of a bad name, is that there is a lot of that. There's a lot of the hands on the laptop images or, really basic content, and so I don't believe that that's the answer to really getting, the be my job is to make sure that you have new opportunities in your pipeline. So I don't know that rinse and repeat type content or rinse and repeat type strategies are it. When I say system, it is a very customized system. It's just the benchmarks are things that we're looking for, not necessarily templated content. Now we do a lot of setup at the beginning. We would certainly set up your systems, your CRMs and things like that. The cold calling or the BDR type service, that's actually not something that we do quite yet. One of the things that's interesting in this space is that we assume a lot about our customer or our prospect whenever we take on just a cold calling service and say, "Hey, I've got marketing, I've got the cold calling service," because of 100% of your total buying population, only 3 to 5% of all those people are ready to buy. And so if you are using a cold calling service as your entire marketing engine or strategy, you're making a mighty big assumption that they've heard about you before. First of all, that they're ready to buy anything, you know, that they even know they have a problem. That's the first assumption that you're making. Then that they're ready to buy something. Then that they've, in this day and age, 82% of their research is done online. So you're assuming that they've already done the research. And by cold calling, then you're really hitting them at what should be kind of the last stage of that, buyer's journey. And a lot of times that's why it doesn't work. Or you say, "Hey, marketing's never worked for me before." It's because you've hired, one item, one piece of the pie as the whole system, and you're frustrated because nobody, all the leads were trash or none of the leads worked and they hadn't heard of you. And so a healthy engine, a healthy system assumes that the person that you're calling at that point in the process has heard your name and your business at least 17 to 20 times before the phone call.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
But,
It's hard.
yeah, but worth it. Okay, so listen, these podcasts are short. We can't get everything in. So let me get this hard
Okay. Yeah.
hitting question in now
Okay.
so we don't squeeze it at the end because
Okay.
people are going to want to know, okay, what is the typical size, type of MSP that you work with? Because all the stuff that you just talked about
Yeah.
are things that a solo tech or a very new or very small MSP, at least from what it sounds to me, that probably isn't the type of company you're looking for, is it?
Well, at any level of revenue, the process, no growth scale, and the framework that we use, it's still the same. And if you can't afford right now to scale, you got to start somewhere. And so most of the time, we have a solution. We have a kit. I call it our MSP marketing kit that we offer that sets some groundwork at a very affordable price point. Now, the clients that are in more of the grow and scale phase, those are the, $10 million MSPs, $25 million MSPs. And we work with those mostly. And I'd say for the most part, we've started them at grow and maybe they were 6 million. A good client of mine the last 4 years has gone from six to, I'd say 13 or 14 million in the last 4 years. So well, we start with them at no matter what phase they're in, but we do require if we're starting at that kit, that MSP marketing kit that we have, that lays the groundwork. And as you grow revenue, then your engine grows as well. So there's not a minimum requirement, but there is a level of and we talked about this before, but there is a level of commitment to the process that we require. And you've got to be ready to spend not a lot of time, but you've got to be ready to show up for a call once a month and make sure we're getting the best of you so that we know that you're serious about growing your business.
Well, I think that's the way you described it. You said they need to be growth ready,
Growth ready.
right?
Yep. Yep. Sales ready, growth ready. I would say, the when you get ready to make an investment in marketing with anyone, if you are choosing a marketing partner to outsource or some of your marketing to, or you're bringing somebody in house, as a founder, an owner of a managed services provider or IT business, you have got to commit time with that person or that team to get out all of the things that make you different and better. Otherwise, all they're going to get from you is limited time and you're not showing up and you're not giving them what they need, and the result will reflect that. So, you have to have a partner who's willing to pull it out of you. We usually require just a couple hours at onboarding is all we really need. And then we do a monthly meeting after that. We got to have, the right people to be able to extract the information from. And if you're not, willing to make that commitment, then it's probably not time for you to partner with somebody with marketing. That's usually what I say.
Okay. Now let me throw this at you.
Okay.
You mentioned 6 million, so I'm going to round that down to 5 million. So you got
Okay.
a $5 million MSP
Okay.
that, they're stuck there a couple of years. They want to grow. They haven't figured out how to get to that next level.
Yep.
But you got a 500,000 a year MSP that is like, okay, I'm tired of being the solo guy. I've got
Yep.
2 tech. We need to bump it up. What is the difference in thinking when you're
Mm.
looking at those two scenarios?
If it really depends on what their long game, what they want. And I've shared this with a lot of business owners. I just finished a book called 10x is easier than 2x, and I'm a big fan of the book. Dan Sullivan is the author of that book, and it really just taught me that if you want to grow incrementally, that's considered 2x, a little bit better every year, a little bit better every year, a little bit better every year. There's nothing wrong with that. That's most of the population. If you want to grow 10x year over year and continue toward 10x, then that takes a different mindset. And it means that you have to be willing to delegate, that you have to be willing to trust a marketing partner to do their job without trying to get in the middle of it. So I'd say the difference between the 5 million and the 500,000 is a lot of mindset and really wanting to take their business to the next level, to the point where they're willing to give an investment in marketing the time that it needs. We talk about this. I think we share the same opinion on just it's not one thing that's going to be the magic sauce. It's a lot of it's a true multi-channel, omnipresent. It's getting your messaging dialed in, your differentiation. It's making sure that you're firing on all cylinders when you get to the certain point. And it's not one thing. And so if you're looking for one thing to be the magic pill or the magic sauce to solve all your growth problems, then that's a mindset shift that you got to make to get past that $5 million mark, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I do. Even though I'm no marketing Marv, I do believe you have to do multiple things. You can't
Yeah.
just do, you can't grab a list of leads, make some calls and be like, well,
Yeah.
that sucks. I'll never
Yeah.
market again.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Let me shift gears real quick because I want to do this too.
Okay.
I want to ask you because I get a sense that you're a little different. You're a little spicy. I'm hoping you're spicy here with this answer.
Okay.
But what's some of the marketing advice that you hear going around the industry that you would just wish went away or that we
Mhm.
would stop listening to or just as crap?
Honestly, this is gonna be an unpopular opinion.
Okay.
Everyone wants to Band-Aid their lead generation problem with, like, a Google ad with ads and spend money on ads. For some reason, I think that people have in their minds that if they're putting money into a Google ad spend, that it should solve all their problems. And the reason I think this is not the best is that, like I mentioned with our diagnostic and no grow scale, not everyone is ready for ads. And so you can spend a lot of hard earned money on, let's say, pay per click Google, Google search or whatever, pointing traffic toward a landing page or your website that has no differentiation, that doesn't compel anyone with a good offer to click and convert. I just had this conversation with a Canadian MSP a couple weeks ago who said, I'm spending money on Google ads. Why is it not working? And I was like, there's a whole lot to unpack there, sir. But you look at the landing page and you're like, I don't even know why I would choose you over someone else. Or, so I would say that things like paid ads should be icing on the cake. They should not be the beginning of your marketing strategy. And I think that's probably one of the, and a lot of marketing partners that are not truly looking out for your best interest, I believe will sell you that the ads to kind of get their foot in the door and without evaluating the full, health of your business. So I would say that if you have made an investment, whether short term or long term, in paid ads and haven't felt like it met your expectations, there's probably a really good reason why. Is that
All right.
spicy enough, or do you want me to give
Eh,
another piece of spicy about?
let me tag onto that question with this because you made me think of something.
Okay.
I was talking with somebody in a completely different field. We're talking about the health industry,
Okay.
and I don't know how this came up, but the lady said that you need to be AI searchable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I heard that from the health lady, not from any of the MSP folks that
Yeah.
I talk to on a regular basis."
Yeah.
So, what do you think of that? How because AI searchable, it's not really marketing, but
Well, it is content, and that is marketing. So AI searchable, I want to make sure that whoever's listening today hears me when I say, if you are the $500,000 a year, revenue MSP, you have a whole lot of other things. Yeah, it's the shiny object syndrome that I know that a lot of times, especially as founders, we get fixated on. And yes, AI is a very hot topic. And yes, our team, delivers a different content strategy specifically to get picked up in AI search because it is a totally different beast. However, again, if you are chasing that and you don't have your foundation in place, then you are spinning your wheels and wasting time. So I believe that AI search is very important. Another book recommendation, if you do feel like you're ready for that, or you do feel like, that's something you want to kind of lean into, there's a book called Endless Customers. Formerly, They Ask You Answer. Both books are great ones, just the 2.0 version by Marcus Sheridan. And that actually gives you 5 categories of how to create content under these. Like, you have to talk about price on your website, talk about unpopular opinion.
I'm sorry, what?
Yep, I know.
Put your price on your website?
Nobody wants to hear that, but guess
Oh,
what people are
no, they
searching for with AI? Now, does it
okay.
mean you have to put exactly what your price is? No, but you need to be talking about it. So an example of pricing on your website, like Marcus Sheridan says in his book, is let's just talk about all the factors of pricing. Let's talk about the subscriptions and the things that you're paying for in order for to give them the service. Let's talk about all the things that might affect the price of an IT seat, right? So we have to, no one in business to business is going to buy from you without researching something, right? Unless it is the warmest referral from your best friend who's not, like those are obviously like going to be a lot easier to close.
Right.
But if someone is coming to you and they've done any sort of research and they have not been able to find, or for example, if they are looking at brands and they are in your area and they start searching and your competitor has more information on price and they don't know what your price is, and they think, oof, they could be 3 times as much, but this guy seems kind of affordable. Let me call him. You're answering the question. So the whole premise of the They Ask You Answer book is your content that's going to show up in AI search should be the top 20 or 30 questions that your customer's asking, and they are most certainly asking about price. First time, every time, usually. So you either put price on your website and you avoid a lot of unqualified leads who can't afford you, or you put information about price that helps them kind of self select, and then you get better quality leads.
Interesting. I don't have price on my website, but I had a referral that I got a couple weeks ago. But one of the things that I did in that first phone call was, okay, let's get this out of the way first.
Yep.
My price is going to start around here.
Yep. Starting at. That's perfect.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
And at first they were like, well, and then I knew, yeah, okay.
Right.
If you're going to, squabble there, then probably not
Right.
going to happen.
Right. And that's the whole thing is really, if you have time to sit on calls and weed people out, after 2, 3 calls, then, more power to you. But if you really want to win in the day of AI search, yes, it's very important. Again, I would say when you get to the between grow and scale phase is when you start implementing that content strategy around AI search. But, particularly, with an AI strategy, you're going to have to answer pricing questions.
Yeah. Okay. Now, for somebody that says, I've tried marketing and I talked to somebody who sounded just like you. They told us they were going to be different. They told us they were going to listen to us. We had a 5-hour phone call and, they took all our information and nothing. How do you get past that?
I've got to have partners that trust me. And I will give you a phone number of any, client of mine to call. I think that's really important. And I think that that's something that we miss doing sometimes. We just, especially if you have been burned before by a marketing partner or, you have kind of like going into the relationship a trust issue. I need partners that are going to trust me. So if you need to talk to any of my clients to make sure that you feel comfortable before that decision is made, that's really important. But also, I do require just a mutual understanding of, there is an expectation of you just as much as there is an expectation of me. Now, I know you're paying me, but tell me this: if you're an if you're an IT provider and all of your clients go around clicking on phishing emails all the time, you have to communicate and say there is a standard in which I expect you to operate with common sense, right? So in the same regard, there is an expectation that I ask that if we are sending you contacts, follow up with the leads, please. Qualify them for me. Tell me, if it was a good lead or if it was too small for you, if it was too big for you, if it's, I have got to have that information so that we can, we are not like you said earlier, is it canned content? Is it rinse and repeat? We have a system for you, but it is not rinse and repeat from the standpoint of everything sounds the same. We still take your differentiator and your market and all the things that make you great. So I've got to have, that from my partner. So if you're so skeptical that you don't think you can get, around it, then maybe you just go hire your own internal team. But I think that the one of the things I love is just being able to bring somebody in and show them these quick wins really fast and show them how having automation from the get-go when a form fill goes out, knowing that as soon as somebody fills out a form, they're going to get outreach from you because we've set up an automation around that. And you don't have to respond to them immediately because we've done it for you. Some of those types of things are just really quick wins that do help our clients gain that confidence in the first couple of weeks.
Okay. You talked about not doing the canned content and stuff like that. Do you limit clients by geographic area?
I don't actually. I disclose if they
So if I want to jump in and there's somebody already here that you're working with in the Lauderdale area, you'll still work with me?
Mhm. I actually think it's interesting that we feel limited by that. To me, it tells me that you don't believe you have enough of a differentiator to separate yourself from your competition. I feel that way. There are a lot of marketing companies here in the local area, and I personally don't necessarily feel threatened by any of them because I feel like I want partners who want to work with me and vice versa. So I feel like the one thing you've got to know, there's nothing else that you are confident in. You've got to be confident in your differentiator. Now, if that's a problem for someone that, that does come to me, then, no problem, no big deal. But I do believe that when you have a differentiator, some of you have, verticals or, specific industries that you serve. I'm never going to place, for example, a paid ad campaign to the same people in the same market for two different companies. There's way too much opportunity for other, creativity when it comes to marketing. And so I'm going to make a choice not to do that. And if it did come to that, I would certainly communicate, but it's never happened before. I've had clients, or prospects opt out because I am working with somebody in their area, but that's an individual decision. Actually, I know we're short on time, but my son played baseball this weekend. I just posted on LinkedIn. He caught a really good catch and got a player out. He's 9 years old this week with a good foul catch. Like hat flew off. He dove the whole thing. And the first thing this kid did when he got him out was walk up to my son and give him a fist bump.
Really?
9 years old.
Okay. They don't teach that in lots of places.
Do you know what I did? I found his mama.
Yeah.
And I walked straight up to his mama and I said, that is the way that we need to be raising our children. And I hope we can all do it as good as you have. And with that, I started thinking about business. I had somebody call me a week ago and say, oh, I saw that you're working with so-and-so, I can't send you referrals anymore. I'm like, okay, dog, what up? It's fine. It's fine. But I think that if we all just learn to be more comfortable in our own competitive advantages, just like that 9-year-old, we should be doing more fist bumps instead of, throwing up our boundaries and our guardrails around each other. So that's my message to those of you who are worried about competition.
Well, that's what we do. That's what we do.
I know.
Guardrails. That's had to get that word in there, didn't you?
Right.
All right. Let me ask this question. And okay, so half of what we talked about, not prepped for. So
Yeah. That's right.
now people can figure out where you're from. I don't want to mention it specifically.
Okay.
But people can hear in some of the ways that you've answered questions.
Okay.
You got a specific little talk to you and stuff.
Okay. All right. Should we make
There
a guess?
we're not doing a contest. But for somebody like, let's say, for instance, where you come from, I know it's not like where I am at. Okay, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. There's some people in some big cities, and they're
Mhm.
gonna be like, you know what? You may not understand my area at all. You do not understand the level of competition that I'm in. If I were to draw a circle around my office here,
Mhm.
2 square mile radius, there's probably about 15 MSPs and IT companies stuff.
Mhm.
So for people that are say to you, yeah, I don't know that you're going to get us.
Mhm.
How do you respond to them?
Um, you mean get us from the standpoint of us and our competition, or just our differentiators, or
Well,
just the market?
differentiators.
The market.
I'm trying to say you're from a small town without saying you're from a small town.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yep. Well, I've been a lot of places though, Marv. I've been a lot of places. So, I am from the state of Mississippi. I have worked for an $8 billion global company, and I have worked for a company here in Jackson, Mississippi that sold for $100 million in 2012. I did global product marketing for that company, teaching Asian and European based sales teams how to sell an electric meter with a cellular module in it. So, little old girl here in Jackson, Mississippi. Yes, I'm from a small town. However, people need your product everywhere, and people are smarter buyers than they've ever been before. And the psychology of selling your product to a smart buyer has been part of my passion and my life's work for the last 20 years. I know that I only look 21, Marv, but I have actually been a working woman for 20 years. So
You cannot be 21 and have a 9-year-old. Don't start
yeah,
that.
I said, I know I look 21, but I do believe that digital tools allow us today to capture a lot of buyer information and market data. So that does a lot of the work for us. And then also we do depend, I can't outmarket a bad product. So I do tell people that, if we are not able to sell and we have given you lots of opportunities, that doesn't take a whole, if you are continually outpricing the competition, or if if you don't have enough of a competitive advantage to price yourself at a premium, that's an internal problem. That's not a marketing problem. So there are some things that that may come up in our onboarding that would require some tough conversations, but at the same time, I don't believe that there's any market. Like I said, I have a Canadian prospect right now. I don't believe that there's any market that is unreachable as long as you do have something that makes you different. That is not, we have a good support team.
All
That's
right.
that's another spicy topic we can talk about
Yeah.
later.
Well, I had to ask that because I had a conversation in a group
Yeah,
where the question came up. Now it was about pricing pretty much, but
yeah,
that falls into this.
yeah.
And the whole concept was this one person is like, I come from this place and I only need to make this much. And then it goes, well, you got to charge this. And they were just two different mindsets.
Right, right,
And I think that we have that a lot. I've got a peer group where we do the same thing. And,
right,
it's always like, well, your area, you have way more people in your area that are willing to pay that much,
right,
that sort of thing. So
right.
it's a topic I want to bring up from time to time because we need to keep addressing it, but addressing it in a way that, you know what? You've got to do what works for you.
Yeah, and you gotta be willing to, open your own mind up to what's sellable outside of your market if your market's tough,
Yeah.
and you've gotta really think about that. That's a business strategy decision too. And, like I said earlier, one of the things that was always very tough for me was I was in Jackson, Mississippi working at a, regional MSP and couldn't find a marketing partner in Jackson, Mississippi that understood the industry and that understood how many touches it took to sell. We're not selling toothpaste here. It's a totally different world. And so I think that, when it comes to having a partner that really understands, or just like I said, making smart business decisions about how you're selling and who you're selling to, that's the first step is acknowledging that, your own challenges in your market and then being willing to pivot from those things.
All right. We're coming up against time here. So I want to make sure I already mentioned that you've got the podcast, that you did a rebrand.
I did. Yes.
A little marketing person doing a rebrand. Interesting
Yes,
there.
of the podcast. So, yeah, we used to be the No Grow Scale podcast, which is, of course, our framework. But most of what I'm teaching is helping our clients and prospects and just people in general learn how to get more MSP leads. And so I thought that that was a more appropriate name because you can't really find me if you don't know my framework. So I wanted to be smarter, about that. So yeah, you can type in "get more MSP leads" or my name, the Business Growers, any of it, and find us that way.
Yep. I'll have all the links in the show notes. I wanted to talk about your 10 proven ways checklist. We're not going to have time for that. But
That's all right.
if you go to the website, folks, there's going to be a place for resources, a ton of
Mhm.
free resources that you can go and download. I assume you got to get your email
You do,
to
of
be on the
course,
list.
of course.
And then, of course, folks, listen to our podcast. I listened to a couple of those shows. You give away a lot of information for free there
Yeah.
that at least we could take a tip or two.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
all
Well,
right. What
yeah.
would you like to? I'm sorry.
I would love to have anyone head over to the Get More MSP Leads on YouTube and find us and subscribe. You can learn a lot that way without having to give me your email address. So
All right. I was just going to ask. I didn't prep you for this, but I probably should have. I'll give you a minute or two to kind of close out here.
yeah.
What do you want people to remember? What do you want people to know? What's that elevator pitch?
Yeah, our elevator pitch, I would just say, is more about you than it is about me. I would just recommend anybody who has tried or is planning to make an investment in marketing, make sure that you're doing it with a solid foundation. And if you're not, be willing to invest the time into either understanding via a diagnostic with my team at thebusinessgrowers.com or just making sure that you have a very solid foundation before you start trying to scale your business in an unhealthy way. So if you want to learn about how to do that or you want to learn just how our diagnostic works, I'm happy to share that with you. You can look us up at thebusinessgrowers.com.
Okay. When you say diagnostic and you talk about health, are you giving like a real health store?
Yeah, well, it's actually a no growth scale phase, and I'll tell you which phase
Okay.
you fall in and why. Yeah, and then we can do a growth session if it comes to that. That would be a second step where we really diagnose the issues and where we'd start. But the first thing is just understanding your health score. You can fill out the form and get it from me that way.
Okay. All right, folks. There you have it. The first episode in our Money Marketing and Growth Month. Laura Johns with the Business Growers. And I hope you found that insightful. Laura, thank you very much for
Thank
coming on the
you.
show.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
And we should be talking again, I think.
I think so too.
All right. All right, folks. If you liked what you heard, maybe um, you realize that you're stuck. Don't just let this be background noise. Take something that you heard from Laura and just do one thing. Put it on your calendar and figure out a way to get your real marketing health check underway. So that is going to do it for this episode, folks. Again, I said earlier, all of her links will be in the show notes, a way to get in touch with her, her website, her podcast, all the good stuff. And we are going to be back with more from Money Marketing and Growth Month, all May. We'll see you soon. And until next time, holla.